Well, let me now introduce the two Toms, Tom Farrell and Tom Yorke. And they are building Frenchman River's kit of the Spillane Building. So, gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Farrell, how are you?
Thank you for having me this evening, and really appreciate being on the show as frequently as you permit me. And it's nice to be on with one of my hero modelers, Mr. Tom Yorke himself. I was at the Al Judy show this past weekend and didn't get home till Monday, so I only had a 2-day run at this build. So I'll be brief, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Yorke. So this is part 2 of what I would anticipate being a 4-part series. I'll have the ability to put quite a bit of work into this the next few days. And as we said last week, this is an original O-scale kit designed by Thomas Yorke. It's the 50th anniversary of his model making, presented by me. Frenchman River Model Works is sponsoring this kit for me, and I urge you all to take a look at their website. They provide scale models in 1/24th scale, HO, S, O scale. They have structures, they have boats, they have cars, they have detail parts, and they carry basically all of Tom Yorke's original kits. And
not all of them.
It's quite a boon for everybody because these kits are absolutely marvelous. So this is part 2. Last week I sprayed all the what I believe are 3D printed windows with a matte green, just a Krylon enamel, and then I sprayed them with a dull coat, which took the basically the satin color, turned it flat, and had the effect of leveling the paint, so it had the appearances of an airbrushed component. I thought I'd make this a little Art Deco-ish, so I got out this gold leaf acrylic from Tamiya, and there's really 3 colors here. There's the base green that I just described. This is actually railroad brown here. It's not exactly a great photograph. And these frames are a railroad brown. In real life, with a better photograph, you could see the gold leaf, the green, and the roof brown. It's a pretty striking color combination. This is just a beige, and I had to go back and touch this up a little bit, but this is in essence what the components look like. I put this beige on a little too thick, and I had to go back I couldn't find my colored pencils, so I used a regular pencil and I outlined these boards. This was the experiment on this side, or here. I went back and did it on both sides. It came out pretty well. Then I moved to the back of the building. If the building is in essence in 2 parts, the front main building, and then the appearances that they added in addition. I did go ahead and paint the inside with a black acrylic flat, a craft paint. I don't plan on detailing the inside, so this is my solution, and they actually say this in the directions that I don't read. And there's the overall look. I put a little weathering chalk on there. Looks like they gotta clean those windows. I went on to Google and I searched for 1920s, 1930 window shades, and I found these. Actually, I just found like the bottom half, and then I brought it into PowerPoint copy and pasted and basically made this window shade with this drawstring, and then glued them on the back of the acetate that's on this window. And then, before I did all that, I weathered this with pan pastels. It's pretty much the weathered look. Now this is magnified like 5 times, but it holds up under the magnification. So here is my buff limestone, which is actually more buff than gray. This is the brick. Then I moved to the back of the building here, and this is the rear foundation. These castings are virtually perfect, but they do have a high, where the resin comes up against the mold. I just knocked that down with the fingernail file. So this is basically flat. So when I put my super glue on here, it actually contacts the base plywood that I'm building on. So there it is, glued in place, super glued onto the plywood base that I'm constructing this on. Again, I found that if I put this final piece of sidewalk on, it was too low, and this height difference would be it is a cityscape, but it would be a tripping hazard. So I put this little spacer in here. And then when I glued in my final pieces of the sidewalk, this is relatively flush all the way around now. This piece is put in there for test or for fitting purposes. So I temporarily just placed this in here. Then I glued the sidewalk in place. I didn't want to glue the sidewalk in place and then have this not fit. This is that base orange color, the enamel from the American Accents Rust paint. It's my base coat. I went over this last week, and this is the top coat, which is an acrylic. There we have the rear addition, which is brick. This has the base coat and the acrylic on it. After I put this acrylic color on and it dries, I spray it with dull coat to seal it before I put on my mortar mix. As I talked about last week, I don't want any of these layers of paint to dissolve each other and get what we call a muddy effect. So to ensure that doesn't happen, particularly with acrylics, a lacquer does the job wonderfully. And then to ensure that everything isn't just perfectly consistent in color, I took this light rust and the surface primer, and it's subtle, but there's different colors in here. Like here you can tell there's a little bit of light rust here, a little bit of dark here. I don't want this to look like it was spray bombed and we're done with it. I wanted variation in the color. I did it before I added the mortar mix. You can see it's quite effective. This is, once the mortar mix is on, I went in with a acrylic wash, put a little black highlights in here, but I mean, that as I said before, that's probably the best brickwork I've ever seen. I mean, it literally looks like somebody put individual bricks in there and mortared them in place. That's a testament to the hand carving. Very nice. I did make this slightly lighter than this. The reason being that I wanted it to appear as an addition. So if it matched, that would be highly unusual, because, this has been on the wall for some period, and then they had the brainstorm to add an addition here. So I wanted it to look a little newer, so it'd be a little lighter. So that was the concept here. That was on purpose. I did take this surface, by the way, this particular piece and its pairing on the opposite side, and I put this on my disc sander to make sure that was absolutely flat before I super glued it in place. And I got a very nice fit doing that. That's not really purple. I took the photo 2 or 3 times. That's just the lighting. This matches this, except for when you have to show it to somebody, then it looks purple. But this is the same color here. And this is the same color. I don't have a photo booth. That's probably coming up next, but this light brick matches this light brick. This dark brick matches this dark brick. And I put the doorways in. There's pay no attention to this. There's pieces that go over this, and the tower goes in here. So I'll clean these windows up and get all the dust off of them. But I'm liking the overall effect. This buff limestone is the natural complement to red brick. I like the idea. See how that's lighter, that's newer, is the concept. Yeah, it's a nice color scheme. Slightly Art Deco was the idea with the gold. Just enough gold that it's not gaudy, but just a nice little accent. There'll be much more June 19th, next week. And I'll turn it over to the designer, Tom Yorke, unless there's some questions. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me? Or am I on mute?
Actually, let me interrupt for just a second. It really won't be the 19th.
Oh,
It'll be the 26th will be the next time that we do.
okay. Gives me a break. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Tom Yorke, it's up to you, sir.
Okay. Were the photographs able to be? Yes, they were. Okay. Good.
You're on.
Okay. What I have done for this week is I've painted all the metal details, and I've finished the roof, the tower roof. I've added the decals, and I've done some more painting details. So this shot shows the where I have added the air conditioning aluminum tape. I've added that in little pieces and just patched over the roof. And then I have used, let me see, it's, what is it? My Micron 03 black marker. And I outlined to make sort of like tar around all the edges of the metalwork.
You got gray squares showing.
And what's behind me isn't real, it's 1/2 inch scale.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, yeah. This shows where I've heightened the look of the woodwork around the tower windows by adding some black, black lines in it. Plus, I've broken up the metalwork by drawing black lines to make it look like there are different sections of metal. Okay. This one has a surprise in the window. If those with good eyes. Those are by Model U, and they're 1/43rd scale rats. I decided to use 1/43rd because 1/48th I figured was going to be too ridiculously small to try and glue in place. And I was right. Here I've heightened the metalwork. I've gone back in and I've put a little more dry pigment on it to highlight the rust. I've put a little more green on it to the metalwork. I can either be plain and as it was stamped, or it can rust. It can rust somewhat, or it can rust completely, and or it can be painted, or any place in between those three. So what I have done is I've combined those three steps into the various pieces of metalwork to make some of it look really rusted, others not rusted basically at all, and some that still have some paint left on them. The metal is really weird because sometimes a panel will rust totally next to a panel that's perfectly silver on a real building. I don't know why that happens, but it does. The way I paint the panels to begin with, the metal panels, is I'll use silver, a metallic silver acrylic. Then I take a medium gray acrylic and I mix a little bit of water with it and I sort of splotch it on. And that gives a little bit of it takes a little bit of the silver away, but you don't want to take all the silver away. You want it to shine a little bit. And then on top of that, I will add rust and or paint. So it's basically a four-step process. And the same happens with the tape that I used on the base of the tower where it's peeled off. The colors are done exactly the same. Okay, we can go to the next one. See what we have. If there is a next one. There we go. Okay. Yeah, okay. This one shows the trim along the top of the stonework. That shows that some of it is still silver, some of it is painted. It has a little bit of green paint left on it, and some of it is rusted. Now the top left panel will get a piece of air conditioning tape over it that's falling off, but we'll do that next time. The little space between the tower and the right piece of cornice, I need to cut a little piece of cornice yet and fill that in there. The sign on there is a new version. I probably Frenchman River will offer that. They are weathered signs, so it's basically the same set of signs, but they're aged to look like ghost signs. But they're on clear, so you have to paint white behind them first. And then I have gone over them once they've been applied and fastened down with Walther's decal set to get them to adhere to the brickwork. Then I've gone back and I've hit a little bit more with light, with some white over the dark to blend it in a little bit better. And you can see how the wood has been fixed on the tower on the lower right, where it looks a little more rotten there, where the metal's fallen off. Okay, we can do the next one. Okay, that's another shot of it. There we go. That's decal work. Okay. That's one of the weathered, the cream fluff is a kit decal, but it is, that's one of the weathered versions. And the other decals are from another company that makes I forgot the name of them, but if you Google O scale graffiti sign or decals, you can get their name. Those are also like my decals. They don't have white on them. They're printed on a clear backing, so you have to paint the back of the wall or the top of the wall white first, which I did not do to the lower left decal, and I'm going to have to go back in and touch up a little bit of that. The decal below the window does not have any white on it, and I like the way that looks. It just blends into the wall perfectly. And the last thing I did today was to do that protective window screen. Bought some fresh garlic, and it was in a little green wrapping of this expandable mesh, which I've cut out, and I built a 60,000 square styrene frame and CA'd the wire, netting to it, and then painted it silver and aged it a little bit. I have to go back in and age it a little bit more. Let's see what else we've got. Me. Next time we'll cover a lot more. This week was a really hectic one. Somebody asked last time what the future models would be for Frenchman River, and I do have two that are coming up. One is a bulk unloader and silos, which can be used to unload hoppers. It can, and they unload that. It gets stored in the silos, and then a truck comes along and picks it up and takes it to wherever it's going. Many industries use this. It can be used for sand. It can be used for feed, cement, plastics, all kinds of stuff. And the next one I'll be doing is the O-scale version of the Cherokee parts store. And that one is going to be built in conjunction with a junkyard behind it, which I've always wanted to do. And I don't know if that'll, if you can see that on there. That's one of the junk cars. It's hard to, it's hard to show. Hard to do. But that is about it for this week. Any questions?
Now, can I just say, though, that's a great little tip about that packaging that you use for the screen mesh. I've probably thrown away tons of that stuff. I never thought of using it for that. Thank you.
Well, I also use wine bottle, the lead from the wine bottle, and that makes great old car parts because you can press it on the car fender and then take it off, and it's another part. Plus, you get to drink the wine.
Beautiful stuff, both what you've created and what Tom's doing with it. Thank you.